come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India at home. Lords goes wild.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the 81 All Out podcast. This is Siddhartha Vaidyanathan at Sidvi on Twitter. And I'm joined today by three regulars after a while. So welcome all. Mahesh, who's at Cornered, Ashoka, who's at ABVan on Twitter, and Kartikeya Date, who is at Cricketing View. I'll link all their handles and you can follow them and read Kartikeya's Substack. So yeah, today I thought we should talk about another topic that keeps coming up almost every game these days. After every game, there is a discussion about this in one form or the other. What kicked off my sort of interest to do this pod was this recent match in Sydney between the ongoing match between Australia and South Africa, where there was this dismissal or, potential dismissal of Marnus Labuschagne, where Janssen bowled a ball, Labuschagne edged, it went to slip Simon Harmer. Apparently, Paul Rifle, the umpire, thought he'd taken the catch. There was an appeal, there was a long wait. And then basically it came back from the third umpire saying that even though, the soft signal might have been out, but the third umpire reversed the soft signal and gave it not out. And then there was a hue and cry about it, as it invariably is these days after any such decision. So I thought we should, take off on that and talk also generally about umpiring, perceptions of it, what we talk about when we talk about umpiring, the misconceptions about umpiring, the demands that the extraordinary demands we place on umpires, and what we really expect of them and what we should perhaps realistically expect of them. And of course, we can talk about soft signal and umpire's call and a few other things around this whole topic. Kartikeya, of course, is quite an authority on this matter. I think I actually got introduced to Kartikeya first when he used to blog many, many years ago about umpiring and DRS and Hawkeye and all these and many of these topics. So that's when I first read his blog, and then I sort of got used to that. And he's done some. He's written more on umpiring and DRS than probably anyone around. In mainstream or non-mainstream. So, yeah, great to have him here. And also we can chime in with our disagreements / other thoughts. Before I start, again, usual reminder, 81 All Out Publishing has come out with 2 cricket books. We have republished it. War Minus the Shooting by Mike Marquesi and Cricket Beyond the Bazaar by Mike Coward. I'm really thrilled with how many of you have already picked up the book and read it and spread the word. But if you haven't, it's a treat. Especially, as a gift or as if you're looking for something for a cricket loving friend, these are amazing books to gift, but also just to read and to understand, good cricket writing and, how things were in the subcontinent back in the 80s and 90s. These are fantastic books. So I'll link them. Anyway, so we can start however we want. Maybe we can start particularly with, your general thoughts about umpiring. KD, you can start off. You've written a lot about it. So, maybe set the stage with why umpiring becomes a topic after every game.
Because I think umpires are the easiest target. They're the only people who cannot defend themselves. They're the only people who cannot answer back. They have to make decisions. Most people don't think they do much, that they are not skillful or that they have no expertise. People think they're just standing there. And it's easy for the viewer to put himself or herself in the umpire's shoes. So in the moment, the umpire is, absolutely, squarely the easiest, simplest target, especially when a marginal decision goes against your team or your player, then this is the easiest thing to attack. Because that the umpire cannot answer back. And you know. And the other thing is that, players, unlike umpires, and this is why I think it's very, very dangerous to attack umpires in this. Because see, players can still play the next game and score runs and, quote unquote, redeem themselves. But, for umpires, there isn't. It's just a slow build up, perpetual build up of this idea that umpires are fools and that they are idiots and they are incompetent and this, that. And, at some point it will blow up, I think. Some umpire will get, and it's happened in the game before, and it will happen again, I'm sure, if this goes on. So,
we shouldn't underestimate the effect of, both television and social media here, because, historically, of course, umpires were maligned in the past, and there have been, umpires were even like dragged big time, and there were players who complained about certain umpires being biased, and all that was there. But now, as Gideon Hay mentioned in a recent piece, and as many people have said, every decision now is a soft signal, pretty much, right? Because players have like 3 reviews, and so every decision an umpire gives, it becomes contentious, it becomes debatable. The whole age-old saying of umpire's decision is final is out of the window. It's no more final. It hasn't been for a while. So everything becomes contentious. And then, of course, out of 10 decisions, there will be one that will really stand out. And then TV will play it some 20 times. And that will become like the talking point of the day. And that happens every day almost. And people act as if that one decision basically is what changed the day.
No, I know. The umpire's decision is still final. There's a different mechanism for that to get there now, but from before. But, so it's not like, okay, you could argue that DRS has undermined the authority of the umpire. And in some sense it has. But the point is, by now, everyone knows how DRS works. Or everyone should know. It's been there for 14 years now. But the point is that this outrage is not a function of it's not an information problem. It's not even a problem of people not knowing any better. It's a problem of people acting out in real time, and that people being able to publish their rage in real time, and people being able to, see other people publish their rage in real time, and that builds up. And, cricket is still, DRS has been very, very successful in taking the sting out of umpiring. But even you look at other sports, referees have retired in football because they just couldn't take the abuse anymore. Why would, it's a terrible, terrible situation. And the point is that there is no merit to it. People are not right about umpires, complaining about umpires. But the point is, people don't care that they are right about, that they are wrong about umpires. It is not about good decisions or bad decisions. It's about this idea that, he's a fool anyway. It creates a permission. It makes it permissible to abuse umpires or to ridicule umpires or to, think that umpiring is some kind of bent, corrupt thing. It permits these conspiracy things, and nobody defends umpires. You see this thing that happened the other day about Adam Zampa trying to monkard the non-striker in some BPL game, and it was a correct decision. He went too far in his follow through, in his delivery action before pulling out and trying to run the guy out, and all it took was for some Wisden or whatever, I forget which it was. I think it was Wisden, to say that, we thought it was vague. So we asked, and what does that mean? You haven't shown that it is vague. There's no standard for you have to meet no standard to show that the umpire is wrong. You can just say it, that, we think this is wrong. Why? On what basis? There's no burden of proof anywhere. This is not just random people on Twitter. This is, the head of content for Wisden. I think his name is Yas Rana or whatever it is. But these people they're just, there's no standard. We are just asking questions. And so then the MCC has to issue clarifications. Then, of course, nobody is interested in that clarification. That clarification becomes another device for outrage. You see this, and you see that, you can see why BCCI stopped explaining itself to the public a long time ago. And I think the ICC and umpires cannot afford to do that, because they have to present the game to the public. But there are these perverse incentives, I think, where outrage is very, very profitable, and so people are going to do it, and it's becoming worse, and it's going to have some consequences.
Yeah, especially if it's like some charged game, like some World Cup final or something, and the umpire comes up with a decision that is then shown on big screen TV, and then people feel that it's outrage. And I won't be surprised if they start, there's like some, crowd violence around this umpiring and all that. And that's like the last thing that you want. Anyway, Mahesh, Ashoka, any, overall thoughts about umpiring, how umpiring is changing, how the general perception of umpiring is changing, and why this thing becomes a topic every day, and that's pretty much one big topic that everyone's talking about.
How has the perception of umpiring changed? I don't know, because I've been watching cricket before all this social media thing. Right now, I'm still watching cricket. Nothing much has changed. Expecting people to read the laws of cricket and how umpiring works and what is a justified decision, this, that, and the other, it's not going to happen. Anyways, and cricket we watch mostly for emotional reasons, not for the intellectual joy that you get adding up numbers. So that's not why most people watch cricket. So it has always been that whenever a decision goes against your player, like that LBW of Sachin in Australia, right? When he tries to duck a ball, that has made people mad even before all this social media nonsense. Now what has happened? A lot of fools have gotten blue ticks, right? And blue tick is supposed to give you some kind of importance. Say that you're a place of business or you're a person of authority or whatnot. And then when you put like 20 words down saying it's utterly shameful, these kind of things are allowed to happen, and people automatically assume, this guy knows more than me because he has gotten the blue tick. Therefore, whatever he says or she says is like very important. And then that becomes a topic of interest. Whereas the same, whining and moaning has happened since long back, man. I always remember when India and Pakistan used to play regularly, we didn't have any, malice and whatnot. At that spur of moment, we used to say this match is fixed and this umpire is fixed. Has taken money from somebody. That's why he has given this decision. It used to happen in every household, every time you go meet somebody. Now, every thought you have can be read by like thousands of people, or in some case, millions of people. And everything becomes a debate. So that is probably why now it looks like a really big thing.
No, it's amplified for sure. But I'm saying that there's always been like, if you take the lower levels of cricket, or if you take like schools cricket and things, basically the vast majority of cricket that happens below international level, I still feel like, largely because many of it is not televised and many of it is not discussed so widely on social media, I still feel the umpires have a certain respect in that place. Of course, there will be cases where you'll hear that, this umpire is useless and that umpire is biased and all that. But overall, I think there is a certain understanding of what an umpire does. And you don't need to know like every single law by heart for that. You just have to get the spirit of course, the umpiring.
Of course, no. By just simple observation, umpires are usually elderly people in a sport played by 20, 30-year-olds, right?
Yeah,
they are not 20, 30-year-olds.
They're old.
So, yeah, they are old. And for some reason, most of us are programmed. However high we go up in life, we are programmed to, say, okay, an elderly person, a person who's like wearing a full hand shirt and a pant, standing in the field is saying something. So, yeah, sure, he knows better than what I do. But it turns out that they are professionals who have been, umpiring for years. They have taken courses on how to officiate matches. They know the laws inside and out. And more often than not, they get things right. They do get things wrong, but sure, that's human error, no?
No, but that's a different thing. No, this is not about players disputing umpires' decisions. This is not about what players gossip amongst themselves about umpires. No, this is not. Players are interested parties. That's not what I'm talking about. This is not even about random people on Twitter. This is about people whose job it is to explain the game. If you have publication, you're writing about cricket, you're full time, then it's your job to explain the law to your readers and to explain the decision. But
then see, KD,
people don't do that. People don't do that.
There is nothing to explain, right? The laws of cricket are available. No, that PDF is available to you. It is available to me.
That's not the point. You have to explain a particular decision, which is you have to explain the facts of that particular decision and the law, and you have to explain why the decision was made or how it was made. Instead, most of the time, these people are like pandering to the reader's prejudices instead of giving information to the reader. That doesn't happen at the lower level. That's not the lower levels are not relevant to this conversation, as far as I'm concerned.
No, they are relevant only because of the level of scrutiny. No, I mean, they don't have that level of scrutiny. Like, there are people who watch matches at the lower level also. I mean, though the numbers are lesser.
And the umpires at the lower level are not as good as the umpires at the international level. But still, the umpires are respected at the lower level. No?
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much what I meant.
No, I mean, it's even at the international level, it's always been there. Right? I mean, the social media amplified and all that is fine. In fact, because we have TV and replays and constant coverage, I find that the outrage on umpires is a lot lesser than what it used to be. Like earlier there was no replay. If Gavaskar came and told you that was a bad decision, you had to believe it. It's a matter of which side you pick, right? I mean, every
for a long time there was not even coverage. Forget replays. There was no TV coverage. You just heard things on radio.
Every conversation in Tamil Nadu cricket is about.
But the mechanism there is different. No, that happens over weeks and months. And it's restricted to a handful of people who are actually interested enough to go and read some Sports Star or whatever it is. This is like hundreds of thousands of people who are following Twitter randomly and come across this, and people watching live and coming across this. This is a completely different beast. And you brought up the whole, Tendulkar Adelaide dismissal. You should listen to the commentary. Gavaskar and Chappell are on commentary over there. And you should listen to that commentary. It is exemplary. I think I've transcribed it for a piece I did for Sydney once for monthly. I don't know if it was in that piece or in some other piece, but I've definitely transcribed it and put it in one piece. So it was exemplary, and the commentators that did not fail, they did explain what was going on. But not only that, they also explained the competitive situation. The emphasis, Gavaskar's first or second point while they were showing those replays, in which, Ian Chappell thought it was a very bold decision. Gavaskar didn't contest it. Gavaskar said, well, basically, Tendulkar has been worried about the uneven bounce. That's why he doesn't want to hook. That's why he's ducking. So he's given himself no chance when he ducks like that of, even having a second line of defense when the ball keeps low like that. That's what he says. That's all I ask. That's actually the commentator doing what the commentator is supposed to do. It's not a crime to not know stuff. Okay. But not caring about not knowing stuff, that's different.
That's a great point, KD. In fact, if I remember, there have always been commentators who've been very good at it. Like, for instance, in the 2001 Calcutta Test, S.K. Bansal was the umpire. And I run into a lot of Indians, forget Aussies, a lot of Indians who actually put an asterisk saying, that was a Bansal match, right? Yeah. And I remember that distinctly because Sachin comes out and gets LBWs, right? 3 LBWs, right? If I'm not wrong. He gets Gilchrist out, Hayden out, and one more.
Vaughan.
Shane Vaughan, Googly, right?
Yeah.
And Chappell was on commentary, and he said SK Bansal was brave enough to give 3 LBW decisions in a situation like this, and all of them were spot on, right? And for an Aussie commentator to say that, and at that point, when these kind of theories,
I mean, what's the?
They are out, of course. And there's nothing controversial. The fact that someone like Chappell says that should have driven home the point. But even after that, we got to hear that, like Jay Prakash, right?
Yeah, I was like,
I have watched that highlight so many times. Okay, the only possible doubt there is Afridi, but that's because Afridi is shaking his head. Then you're essentially saying, okay, you believe Afridi or you believe Jay Prakash, right? And we're not even including Kumble here. But you leave that aside. Everything else was clearly out. But there's the umpires are pretty easy targets all along, right? I mean, it's a bit like this, right? As a selector, it's a job I can do. I can't bowl like Wasim Akram, but I can pick squads. Like selector, I can be a selector. I can be a coach. I can decide which order, the batting or the batting order should be. Stuff like that. These are like easy spectator sport that we can indulge in, and umpires are the easiest of them all. And at least with selectors, right? When things go well, somebody writes an article crediting them, or great picks, great selection. Coach, similar thing. But there are very rare positive stories about umpires that people write. In fact, Brian Lara, for instance, writing in his bat and giving it to David Shepherd in his last game is one of those rare gestures that you see. Usually, a good umpire is taken for granted. A good umpiring decisions are taken for granted, and the bad umpiring decisions are outraged to the skies. So the asymmetry of it is always been against the umpires. And then Steve Buckner, right? I mean, who was known as one of the greatest umpires of all time. He was officiating in so many World Cup finals. And some of the decisions of Steve Buckner that I remember are crazy. It is almost inhuman that he got so many of them right. Of course, he got quite a few wrong, especially towards the end of his career. But Sylvie remembers talking to Steve Buckner about how many Indian fans actually, even after all these years, still hold it against him and they run into him and talk to him about it. I mean, this is Steve Buckner. It's not even one of those, low-profile umpires who's good enough, had one bad decision. Steve Buckner had an exemplary career. It's a bit like Viv Richards, finishing off his career with a poor run, or probably what Kohli is going through now. He had an exemplary career. He probably had a few bad decisions towards the end of his career, but this is what we remember of him, right? The umpires are extremely easy targets, and that's, in a way, it's a continuation of the toxic way in which we consume sports, and also, I shouldn't call it toxic, but let's say the irrational way in which...
It's toxic, let's face it. I mean, that is the correct term.
Yeah, that is as fans.
Steve Buckner, Steve Buckner is it's such a sad story when you hear that Steve Buckner now, who is probably 70 plus, he's just living like his retirement pretty much in New York, in the New York area. And he lives with his daughter there. And he's basically just trying to, have a good time. He occasionally umpires in some local games and all. But even now, apparently, when he goes to some local games and some, Indians or some other, expats see him, they boo him. Now, how ridiculous and how sad is that? I mean,
But I'll give you one great example. The Australian umpire Harper.
Daryl Harper.
Yeah, he gave a decision against Amit Mishra once. Amit Mishra was bowling and he gave a decision, and Amit Mishra dissented. Okay, and it turned out that in that particular case, Amit Mishra had a point, right? I mean that Amit Mishra was right about what the decision should have been, and Harper was wrong. But Amit Mishra, I think, got sanctioned by the referee and stuff like that. And Mishra couldn't understand that, apparently. But Harper pointed out to him that that's not the point, right? The dissent is not about the merit of the case. The dissent is about the position of the umpire, and you cannot dispute the umpire's decision. That's the point. No, even if the umpire is wrong in the moment, the umpire is going to be wrong from time to time. You do not dissent. And the players understand this much better. I mean, the players are far more forgiving of umpires than the people who have no skin in the game. They're just, because the players are actually interested in, the merits of the argument and the merits of the decision, because they have skin in the game. They want the umpire to get it right. But this is not, what we are talking about here is not that. what we are talking about here is people not caring about what is right and what is not right.
No, also players, I think, especially in the since the DRS era, realize how hard it is because they themselves get so much wrong. No, so
Yeah, they get
I think that has only
decisions wrong.
Yeah, they get 3/4 of decisions wrong.
Yeah.
So
the DRS is a curious point, right? One, DRS came about after the elite panel was launched, and just the formation of elite panel has improved what was an already good standard for umpiring so much.
Yeah.
And then DRS actually proves a point, right? Even cricketers get so many. Some of them are, of course, gambling sort of reviews, but legitimate reviews. Like, for instance, the whole idea of DRS sounded so good because of, let's say, the Steve Buckner incident, right? Ishant Sharma bowling to Andrew Simons and that changing so much in cricket history. Sure, that's like an obvious miss. But the point is that cricketers believe that happens quite often, but it doesn't. And DRS has actually been a great testament to the fact that umpiring standards have been exceptional.
Yeah. No, but and I mean in COVID we had ICC panel home umpires. No, we didn't have because they said the neutral umpires couldn't travel and all that. And DRS records showed that even though umpires were not as good as the elite panel umpires, because they're from the lower international panel, they had picked in some matches, because not every team has, 3 umpires on the elite panel. Even then, firstly, there's no evidence of bias against visiting teams. Second, the decisions are still almost as good as the ones made by the elite panel. If you go by, the success rate of DRS reviews over a large number of times. So, I mean, umpires, and this is what happens. What's happened with umpiring is what happens with all such systems, where they invest money, they, invest time and effort in training umpires. They create sort of, mechanisms by which people can go and hold workshops and train umpires, and they give umpires job security, they give umpires financial security, and you get better umpiring. That's what's happened with umpiring since they formed the elite panel. But DRS came about because of broadcasters. That basically, because broadcasters were going to show that stuff on TV anyway, and it was just not tenable for the umpires to ignore, for the adjudication to ignore that. So they said, okay, fine, we'll bring it into the tent, and it has been very successful. I mean, it's a little easier in cricket compared to football because cricket is episodic, and so a challenge system is viable. And the challenge system is also viable in American football, for instance. So that's also episodic, that after every down there's another play and the clock stops and the clock starts again, so on and so forth. But in a non-episodic sport like football, like the video review is a much more fraught exercise. It's much harder to do a challenge-based review because the whole point of having a review is to share the responsibility. It's to tell the players, okay, you want to dispute my decision? Yeah, dispute it.
Yeah, I mean, American football takes the soft signal and thing one level higher, right? I mean, they have like a whole team of referees sitting in a studio. I mean, sitting in a TV room in New York.
And American football also allows one thing which cricket doesn't allow, which is that it allows the coaches to review video before deciding whether or not to challenge. Which cricket doesn't do.
Yeah, and after that, it doesn't go to just one person like the third umpire in cricket. It goes to like a group of people in a studio, sitting in a room in New York, group of experts, that is. And then they review it over a period of like, say, 2-3 minutes and then relay the decision back to the on-field ref. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how that wastes time and all that, but that's American football has learned to live with it. But I don't know if cricket will ever get to that stage. But anyway, I mean, it's probably inevitable at some point.
So sorry, I have to make this point before we get into the crux of the discussion because I don't want to digress then. But one of the things that always amuses me is that people who talk about the fact somehow there's something overarching about all these things is the common sense. Like, why can't we apply common sense? Like, bad light stop play, common sense, rain delay, common sense, like grounded catch, common sense. Like somehow, like people are just stupid, right? Like they just don't have common sense, and somehow that's the only ingredient missing.
It's like Calvin says, no? Why can't we apply common sense and give me what I want?
Yeah. That's one problem, right? The other thing is it's pretty much the same crowd, right? Which complains about the fact that overrate is low. And cricket has to take itself seriously if it has to be viable. All these insecurities that they have about why Test cricket doesn't get 100,000 people coming to the ground. And they have their fancy reasons, right? Bowlers have to bowl on time, they have to come on time, they have to start on time. Light is a problem, that is a problem, whatever. But at the same time, they are okay with wasting enormous amount of time going through reviews over reviews. Like, I was watching that Stephen Smith catch incident. My God, like it was going on for 2.5 minutes. Like, why is the insecurity not there now? Why? Is getting that decision so important, so critical that we are happy to waste so much time? I'm not disputing that. I'm saying if you are okay with that, you should also be okay with Pat Cummins bowling a couple of overs late, a couple of overs less in a day, or probably taking 15 minutes more to finish the overs because the quality of bowling is so good.
You get to watch Pat Cummins bowl a 6-over spell. That's worth the price of admission.
Exactly. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say, okay, we got to be super efficient on all these things, and we should go to be super accurate even at the cost of time on all these things. And pretty much the people who complain about both are the same people, right?
See. Coming back to the umpiring, right? Like umpires being the target and all that is fair enough. But what Karthikeya said, right? Like these umpires go through a lot of training and, they are graded based on their performance and whatnot. So there is an adequate fail-safe to, prevent any standard reduction. And there is also, a lot of steps that are there for an umpire to become an elite umpire. If that is the case, that is the part of cricket coverage that we should, have. That should be a segment somewhere. There is absolutely no segments about the umpire. You see the boundaries of the day, you see the wicket package.
You're saying segments of the day. A long time ago, when Subhash used to do Couch Talk, he had Taufel on his podcast, and Taufel made the point that you see everybody is available, comes on the commentary as a guest, but they rarely have umpires on commentary as guests. And why is that? There's nobody to put the umpire's point of view, which is actually the one point of view with actual relevant expertise to most of these things they talk about. Why would you have Mark Waugh talking about low catches instead of umpires?
Because he's junior.
Yeah, he's an expert at taking low catches, but not at adjudicating low catches. No. Yeah, and the other thing that TV never does is, also explain to people that this particular umpire has actually a great record. Almost all elite panel umpires have a great record because they get like 98 or 99%, whatever, a very high percentage of their decisions. So, that is something that commentators or TV doesn't acknowledge. I think they should have like a bar saying like some stats for umpires and all that. And this is a 99% umpire. This is a 98.5% umpire and all that. So,
No, they should celebrate. They should like make it dramatic. If an umpire makes a mistake, like, oh, it's such a rarity. You're not going to see it again for the next 2 years. Celebrate it while you can.
No, first of all, that mistake itself, they have to explain why they think it's a mistake that they fail to do. They have to explain that, it is not like this whole concept of a howler. It's like how many howlers in probably 20, the actual definition of a howler in the last 23 years since 2000. You can actually count it on your fingertips. But every decision cannot become a howler, right? The Steve Buckner, that Andrew Simons, Ishant Sharma, Andrew Simons, okay, you can say that's a howler. But how many do you get like that? You probably get like 10 like that in the last 25 years.
This should be like banned words, howler, blunder. They say just because it's one guy's judgment, it becomes subjective. No, it's not. Umpires do not do anything that can be considered subjective in any serious sense of the word. A subjective opinion or a subjective position is one which is shaped by individual taste or individual preference or individual bias. And umpires never do that. Umpires make decisions under uncertainty, but they do it based on training. They do it based on what the law mandates, first of all, and what facts are available. The criteria on the basis of which they are making decisions are published.
I think what we need to drill through, and KD has written a lot about it, is that, this whole sort of the replay and this whole thing of, was the decision right or was the decision wrong? But that is not the way the umpire is working. No, like the umpire is not saying, oh, okay, I have to take the right decision, so I'm going to do this. The umpire has like some 100 things that is going on in their heads through which they're making a judgment, and after which they're saying, this is our judgment of it. And then it goes to the third umpire, and then the third umpire decides whether to agree with the judgment or not. And so at the end of the day, it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of whether the umpire's judgment met a certain standard, right? I mean, that never comes through when you're actually watching and saying, oh, that's a wrong decision.
Yeah, I mean, on TV, you see this in the last day of a test match, the ball is spinning and this and that. And on the umpire gives a LBW and the batsman reviews immediately. And the batsman reviews immediately and people say, see the stupid umpire. And on the review, on the replay, it shows it's one feather of an edge on the bat, and there was so many noises going on around the bat. Firstly, there are 5 fielders around the bat. Then there's the batsman spikes, on a worn pitch. Then there's the bat touching the pad. Then there's the bat touching the ball. There's all this stuff going on. And in that, his umpire is supposed to, absolutely, he gets one chance to listen to this one feather edge. And that also, a lot of the time, they actually identify it. And the one time they don't identify it, it's ekdam howler. Done.
No, and there are also things that we don't see on TV, right? And we can't gauge on TV, right? Like there is a wind that is blowing in the ground that the umpire has to contend with. There is there's the whole angle from which the bowler is delivering the ball and has been over the course of the day. And there are all these things that the umpire is noticing, and that one TV replay will not tell you all that. No, will not tell you what the umpire has built that judgment on.
Yeah, and umpires, for instance, don't rule based on, he's on 95, I better give him out. Or the other favorite thing that people have is that, but this team has already lost its 3 reviews, so the umpire should actually give it LBW and let the other side review it if they want. No, that's not how it works. That's not what umpires do. That's not what umpires are there for.
Whoa, that is a next level thinking, man. I've never come across this kind of idea money kind of thinking. Amazing.
No, that happened when that famous Stuart Broad edge happened, right? I mean, basically, Australia had run out of reviews, and then Stuart Broad edges the ball, goes to the keeper, goes to slip, and the Stuart Broad stands his ground because Stuart Broad is like, why should
thumped it to first slip?
No, it went. I think there was a deflection off the keeper.
No, there wasn't. I've seen that
deflection
video,
of the bat. Yeah, deflection of the
bat was 20 degrees, man.
Okay. Fair enough. That was maybe you can say all that, but the fact is
terrible umpiring.
No? The fact is nobody mentions that Australia were terrible in their review taking that day. Then they ran out of reviews for that and they couldn't get a review. No, so that is also a point of the whole thing. Of course, umpire made the mistake. Fair enough. Agree, umpire made the mistake, But what you had your reviews, to save up for exactly that kind of situation.
Okay, I have some sympathy for the umpire here, right? If it was such an obvious edge that it really went from the face of the bat and went to the fielder, and the batsman is so confident, there is no doubt, then I'm going to doubt myself. Did I really see it? How can he be so confident? There must be something I missed.
Ali Dar was the umpire, and he's a magnificent umpire. But okay, you can make an error of that kind. You can miss it. You can think that okay, it only hit the wicketkeeper's glove or something like that. It's possible. Who knows? He gets to hear it once. We get to see it on YouTube whenever we want and decide that he's wrong. But the point is, he can't say that, well, Australia, I've got no reviews left, so I'll give it out. And if it's not out, then Broad will review it. That's not how it works, though. He can't you can't the state of the game is not the state of the game is not a factor in whether something is out or not.
You are not understanding, KD. That's not how it works. Is not the point. That is how it should work for the overall fairness of the game. That is the point. That's why people are like, make it fair.
Common sense.
So you want the umpire to redress the balance, like the I'm feeling sorry for this team because they're behind. I won't give this LBW. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? It's like the conflating of a player's response to a match situation and an umpire's response to a match situation. So when 4 runs are needed of 2 balls, it's not like the umpire is suddenly changing his method of making a decision and then coming up with some, under pressure clutch decision at that time or something.
Umpiring.
He's using clutch umpiring. He's using exactly the same sort of systematic ways in which he was doing it at the very first ball. So what is this? It's not like at that time, how can an umpire give the wrong decision? He can give it at any time. It's just that it just happened to be at that point. It's not like he suddenly said, that he was sweating bullets because 4 runs were needed of 1 ball. And
when it mattered,
Okay. Siddhi, I have a question for you. As a publisher of Cricket Beyond the Bazaar, do you think Vikram Raju would have given that out had it not been the last wicket of that test match?
I think Vikram Raju made it worse for himself by going and telling Ravi Shastri that I wanted to be in the history books, and so I wanted to be part of a tight test and all. I don't know why he said that. Maybe he said that because he was pissed off that Ravi Shastri had the gall to walk into his umpire's room and question his decision. But yeah, man, Vikram Raju, I'm pretty sure would have given that decision at any point of time. And the thing is, we wouldn't have even spoken about it because that dismissal would have been forgotten. We're talking about it because it's the last.
He couldn't handle the pressure.
He couldn't handle the pressure. And poor guy, his career finished because of that one decision. He used to talk very sadly about that, the fact that they punished him for that decision.
No, just one point on that. Shastri can have his opinion on that dismissal. But whatever little grainy video that we can see, what is obvious is that it is not a howler. It may have been not out, but it's not a howler.
Look, the umpire gave it out, so it's out. And it's a correct decision. Unless you can show that it is not a correct decision, it is a correct decision. Okay? This is assuming the opposite is not equivalent to this. Okay? Assuming that the umpire is dumb is not equivalent to assuming the umpire is right. Okay, the umpire is right is the default assumption.
One thing we need to get clear, as we get into, when we talk about this whole umpire's call and soft signal and all, is that the whole premise is based on the fact that there is a certain trust of the on-field umpire's judgment. It's not, so when the decision goes to the third umpire, their job is often assumed is that, okay, you see the TV replay, you have to decide if it's right or wrong. But that is not their job, right? Their job is to see if the judgment of the on-field umpire if there is conclusive evidence to prove that the judgment of the on-field umpire is wrong. And so if they feel that, then they will reverse it. If they feel, they will reverse it. If they don't, and if they can't, and often with TV replays, you can't, because at the end of the day, a TV replay is showing you a 2-dimensional sort of view of that 3-dimensional action, and then they stick to the umpire's decision. So that whole, the thing of that decision in that Surya Kumar Yadav's debut game in Ahmedabad, where that David Malan took the catch in the outfield. Now, you can debate about whether the on-field umpire should have a judgment about outfield catches or not. That is one separate debate. But the moment now, as of now in the rules, when you have the fact that the on-field umpire gives that soft signal, and then the third umpire has to then decide whether there is inconclusive evidence or not, then you are stuck with that. No, I mean, that is very much, they're following the laws. They're not saying, you cannot say, see, the ball is definitely hit the ground, so he has to say it is not out. Because, first of all, I don't know if we can even say the ball has definitely hit the ground. And then second of all, he has to just have that level of confidence to reverse the decision, no? So, I mean, I'm just saying, I think this whole TV replay proving things, I think it's a whole fallacy that people fall into all the time.
Yeah, but there's a distinction, no? Because, you see, ball tracking is a measurement. TV replay is not a measurement. It's just the TV umpire is also eyeballing, just like the umpire on the field, except that he's eyeballing a two-dimensional projection of a three-dimensional event. So it's not there's no measurement involved in evaluating low catches. That's why the soft signal was useful, because there is, what you want is to arrive at a decision consistently. This is the other thing. No, the point is not whether you think one particular thing is out. The point is whether you think that this particular event has been interpreted similar to other events like this one. So I may disagree that, their interpretation of, I may disagree with the way they interpret low catches. I think, for example, that just having the fingers under the ball is not enough, because you cannot guarantee that no part of the grass is touching the ball if you just have fingers under the ball. But that's not the way they see it. But that's fine, because they don't see it that way consistently. So they give those low catches to all fielders. Especially when the soft signal was out, they would just give that. And that's fine, because it's consistent and players know that that's going to be given out. So that's okay.
But soft signal is not consistent. No, sometimes the soft signal is out, sometimes it's not out.
No, but the soft signal is, how do you know the soft signal is not consistent? What does consistent mean here? What do you want? You want to accumulate all possible opinions of people who have carefully observed the action, right? So that's why you had the soft signal, right? You have to say that, okay, the umpire is actually the one guy who's trained to follow the ball and keep his eye on the ball whenever the ball is in play, right? And the umpire is, used to seeing catches at this level and so on. The umpire is trained to look for cues about when a catch is claimed and when a catch is not claimed, and so on and so forth. And so you say, okay, if the umpire is not sure on the field, the umpire says, okay, I think it is out. If you find some evidence to reverse this, then reverse it. But otherwise, we should give it out, which is entirely fine. Why? That's a perfectly reasonable way to construct a decision. And it's a very, very, actually, it's a very good way, a very nice conservative way to construct a decision. I don't know why people outrage about different parts of this. How do you make decisions under uncertainty? This is like a classic textbook example of how you do that when you have imperfect information.
Now you're saying the umpire has imperfect information, and therefore he's saying, given information, my decision is either out or not out. But I'll send it upstairs for further validation. Now the other guy also doesn't find much to, conclusively say it one way or the other. In that case, why to default back to the guy who's already saying, I don't know for sure?
Because he's saying
that's how conservatism is designed, no?
Yeah, that's what he thinks it's more out than not out. He's not equidistant from out and not out. That's what soft signal means.
See, I'm not sure. I think it's 60% out. Somebody is saying, okay, I don't know enough to overrule your 10% sort of skew. And that's how conservative decisions are made. What's wrong with that?
That's a good way to make decisions. No, that is actually a very, thoughtful way to construct decisions. You have one guy on the field who has one type of picture. You have another guy on the TV box who has several different pictures. And they have built a mechanism they had built a mechanism by which they could construct these things. And now what happens is, live in the moment, you have these ex-cricketers with their accounts which have like million followers tweeting not some thoughtful thing like, here's why I object to this, or here's why this may be wrong. It's like, this is ridiculous. This is shameful. How can this go on? They say stuff like that. There is no defense against that. There's no reason cannot defend itself against that sort of. There's no constructive process which can survive that kind of assault.
That makes me.
I think
that's why even more mad.
That's why they got rid of That's why they got rid of the soft signal, no? Because
that makes me even more mad, than some guy, some cricket watching fan. At least the fan, he is watching it and he's invested emotionally and all that.
Yeah, but that's why I've been saying from the beginning.
Doing this.
I've been saying from the beginning of this conversation that I have no problem with what fans are saying. I have no problem with what people are saying at home on TV. I have no problem with what ex-players are saying afterwards when they gossip amongst themselves. That's not what this is about. This is about media.
No, forget even the media. The ex-players who have played like hundreds of test matches should at least know the foundation of which this soft signal is made. They should intuitively at least grasp it, even if they don't.
No, it's not intuitive because they don't have experience of designing a decision-making framework. They are cricketers. They know cricket. They don't understand why. For instance, how many people actually bother to find out?
See, this is not some rocket science. No, this is not some.
No, it's not rocket science. But at the same time, it is not obvious to them.
But it's systematic decision-making about how to interpret video evidence. There's nothing a cricketer has learned when they learn to play cricket which teaches them to interpret video evidence or interpret.
Also, when they're part of the media, they are naturally they are also following the incentives of the media economics, right? I mean, Eventually, if a producer in your ear, when you're commentating, if you're an ex-player, if a producer in your ear is saying that, talk about this for the next 2 minutes in the break, and trying to make this the talking point, I mean, eventually you will also succumb to that thing. I mean, it's very unlikely that for you to be extremely rational when you have all these other pressures going on also.
No, I probably draw one line of distinction there, right? Ex-cricketers in the media behaving like media happens in other places. We have heard Tony Greig talk about umpiring howlers after watching replay, right? And that's like behaving like a media person. Like, you didn't think it was a wrong decision real time. You watch 4 replays and then say it's a howler, right? That I'll put that down to this. But like someone like Sachin that did not have media engagements, when he repeatedly expressed his reservation against giving the benefit of doubt on umpire's call, when the 50% of the ball is not hitting the stumps, right? That is, as an ex-cricketer, that's his understanding of how it should be. I think he has a legitimate sort of, it's a genuine thing. I wouldn't say legitimate, but it's a genuine thing. It's not because he's been asked to manufacture or he's because he's fallen into the trap of media or whatever.
Yeah, but he's wrong.
He's wrong, fine. But the incentive is not the same as, let's say, Tony Greig doing it on air, right?
Yeah, and Tendulkar, to be fair to Tendulkar rarely outrages. It's not his... It's not his thing.
Yeah, but the cause of that comes from the misunderstanding of how that thing. He doesn't think of it as probability. He is thinking of it as half a ball, right? So his view is, if half a ball hits the stumps, I'm bowled. If half a ball is projected to hit the stump, why am I not LBW, right? So that comes from misunderstanding of how DRS works. And in similar ways, a lot of ex-cricketers or even current cricketers, like Ben Stokes' opinion on this, comes from the lack of understanding of how this is designed, how this decision-making framework is designed. And I would look at that differently from, let's say, them outraging about a bad umpiring call.
Dude, these are players and ex-players, man. Their whole business is, okay, fine. Whatever their incentives, they have to behave like media, okay, spur of the moment, this, that, and the other. But tomorrow they wake up and they're still cricketers. No, they are in the business of cricket. No, I mean, you would expect them to understand it more than some guys.
No, they do. Why? But it's not. It is not easy to understand for them, right? In fact, you and I would understand it more because we have started.
I mean, especially with Tendulkar, there is the history, the specific Tendulkar-specific history where he never liked it when he was playing, and it's one of the big reasons why India didn't adopt it while he was playing. India hated DRS while he was playing, and it was only afterwards in 2013-14 that when those guys retired and the new players came, like when Kohli and Dhoni and all these people came along, that India sort of said, okay, fine, we think DRS is okay. Until then they said the same old stuff about if unless it's foolproof or so what have you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, see, DRS is a bureaucratic system that has been set up, okay, decision making. Now, it's like in a company, you may be working in a company, you may have a lot of skills in your specific forte, but if a company sets up a performance evaluation system, then you may not necessarily understand it. No, you may just outright saying this year I was rated poorly, this year I was, this year this person was rated poorly.
But how much ever unfairly that incentive systems were designed, there is an explanation of that system given before your performance appraisal. They say that this is how we are going to do it, and this is
but
the way
the point is you have to understand probability to understand ball tracking.
Why? I mean, fine, but I'm not saying that you don't teach cricketers math and whatnot. You're just going to say, because of the width of the stumps and because of that third event has not yet happened, you're just doing conjecture at that point in time. It's a best case estimate, and the system is not refined to do that best case estimate, and therefore it goes back to umpire's call, whose job is to do this job, and he has given it out or not. This, is something.
No, let me read what Ben Stokes said a few days ago about the soft signal, about this Labuschagne catch, right? He retweets that video of that catch, and then he says ICC should get rid of the soft signal and let the third umpire, who has all the technology to make the decision, when the on-field umpires send it upstairs. All the controversy is always around the soft signal given. This isn't a comment on the decision for your information. Okay, he says that. But it clearly shows the misunderstanding of the system. No, first of all, he's saying the third umpire has all the technology available. That is itself debatable, especially in this case because...
No, but that's not true. No, there's no technology which can measure whether a catch was completed or not. There's only video, which you still have to eyeball, which is imperfect.
And also in this particular case...
there is no all the technology and all the information. There is no perfect information. Wherever there's perfect information, there's no decision. When a batsman is bowled, he just walks. Nobody makes a decision. That's perfect information.
But I'm saying in this particular case, even that the best bit of information available, which was, I think, the Channel 7 frame-by-frame footage, was not available to the third umpire, Kettleborough, because he was seeing like fewer frames in the slow motion replay. I mean, this was just like a technology availability issue. So even that is not true. Like even the best frame by frame slow-mo is not available to the third umpire. And secondly,
but that's a difference of degree. No, that's a difference of degree.
Exactly. I'm saying even if it is available, what Ben Stokes is not either he's not understanding or he's not expressing is that ultimately what is the third umpire doing? The third umpire is not just saying, okay, I have this technology, I can make this decision correct or wrong, but that is not his job. No, he has to see whether there is enough evidence to prove that Paul Rifle, the on-field umpire's decision, can be overturned. I mean, in this case, he felt there was enough evidence and he did overturn it and he gave it not out. That is fine. But that is his job. No.
Correct. But see, my original point is, if there are cricketers who play for premium T20 leagues, which has like 30 buckets of analysts who sit these players down.
Like Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes.
Yeah. So the analysts sit them down. They say that this is how it is with respect to shot making, with respect to the angle of ball sport, this, that, the revs on the ball, this, that, and everything, without having to teach these guys probability and whatnot. It's a simple educational video of telling them this is how it is. Now, that has not happened is obvious because these people are going out and tweeting stuff. And
no, I'm not sure that has not happened. I mean, it has happened. It has happened over and over again, as far as from what I've been told. I mean, it is basically a conceptual misunderstanding. See, because these are not trivial things, no? These are not, I mean, decision making under uncertainty is hard, and decision making under uncertainty, under scrutiny is even harder. And yet they've come up with a pretty good system of doing it. It's not a perfect system. There's no such thing as a perfect system because you don't have perfect information. So, but they've been able to do it. And the people who talk about it do not understand it. The people who played under that system do not understand. I mean, why that? The other day I was listening to this podcast and They were talking about DRS and ball tracking and Hawkeye, and they're basically talking about some learning system. Ball tracking is not a learning system. How one ball is predicted is not based on how other balls are predicted. It's entirely based on it's a positional solution. It says there are orthogonal cameras which capture the position of the ball in each frame, and that's how they build the trajectory of the ball. It's a vision problem essentially, and then based on that trajectory, which gives them, they can calculate things like acceleration, deceleration.
Basically, computer vision. That's what you're talking about.
All the things that our friend Himanish Ganju talks about with Harshal Patel and all that.
Akshar Patel.
Yeah, Akshar Patel, and also Harshal Patel in T20. He's been talking about that lift Harshal Patel gets whatnot. Basically, you can do physics with that information. No? You can apply Newton's laws to that information, and that is how they project. The really hard problem. One of the really hard problems in that is to isolate the point of impact, because that is a moving object hitting another moving object. That is hard, but they still manage to do it. So, and they do it pretty well. And I mean, there is now pretty good measurements about how they do it. But I was surprised. I mean, why blame the players? These guys are also not people who are actual statisticians. Don't have the first clue. There, I think you can say something about, okay, the broadcasters are, they commission vendors to provide them the technology, and the vendors want to protect their IP, the proprietary technology, and so they don't want to explain how any of this works, and that is a problem. I mean, I think if the vendors actually explained how their technology works, it might help. At least it will give people something to throw at these people, no?
But didn't you do a podcast with the Hawkeye or the other one?
Hotspot. Warren Brennan.
Yeah. Wasn't that informative enough? Like at least at a very sort of macro level.
Yeah, but like 200 people have listened to that.
I know. I'm just saying it's not because they're not willing to reveal. It's just that there is not enough interest in the media to talk about it, right?
Yeah, but that's because it's explanatory. It's trying to clarify things. There's no traffic in that.
So it goes back to the point, right? Like,
you mean to tell me that there is no producer in Hotstar or Sony that can make a segment out of this, interesting segment out of this? I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Well, what is that incentive? Of course they can.
It will never get past the lawyers, because Hawkeye and Virtual Eye will say we don't want our IP to be TV.
You're not explaining how. I mean, the code, man. You're not showing the code to them, man. You're just saying how it works.
I don't know.
And how it works is very apparent.
My view of trying to explain maths to the lay public, it's really hard to do.
You're not explaining math. Again, I'm not saying how you're explaining math, but the edge cases, you should be able to pictorially show things that, okay, there is no evidence, therefore it is turned over to the umpire. I mean,
no, but it's a simple thing. Look, it's a very simple thing. That whole umpire's call thing. No, it is that. Look, by the time the estimate of where the ball is when it crosses the plane of the stumps is calculated, the center of the ball is located by some finite precision, which means that there is a certain confidence interval within which you can say that the ball is in this ellipse of this minor axis and this major axis, something like that. Okay, let's make it simple. It's between a circle of radius, say 4 millimeters. Okay, the point is that if the ball is hitting the middle of the stumps, then even if it is wrong by whatever maximum estimate of error there is, which is 8 millimeters, it's still going to hit the stumps, right? But if it is wrong, if it is hitting only the edge of the stumps, then if it is wrong by 8 millimeters, there's a chance that it will miss. So you can't give it. So basically, when they say that 50% of the ball is hitting, less than 50% of the ball is missing the stumps, what they're really saying is that the probability of it is missing the stumps is unacceptably high. That's what it means. That's why you have umpire's call. Okay. Now I'm pretty sure that if someone said this on TV or people will switch off the channel.
I am not so sure, dude.
I think people would have switched on the moment you said ellipsis, confidence interval. That's it, gone.
You don't have to say call. Okay, fine, I give up. But I'm not convinced that
No. Ashoka, what are you talking about? This is extremely complex. We are talking about how DRS decision making framework works.
See,
Conservatism. If you're not sure enough to overrule the on-field umpire's decision, do not overrule. It doesn't get more simple than this. It is extremely simple, and that is difficult to understand. Forget the science and the technology and all that.
No, I don't have to know the margins of errors and the confidence intervals. All I have to know is the reason why it says umpire's call. Because it appears to the lay public, because of the way the graphic is shown. First of all, the way the graphic is shown, it looks like the ball is going to hit the stumps, whereas that event has not occurred. That is a conjecture, first of all. That has to be brought out somehow, because the ball has hit the pad. It has never hit the stump. You have to, that is a guesstimate. Two, because of it being a guesstimate, it has a certain error level. Over a certain error level, they don't know if it is going to hit the stumps or not. That's it. I mean, I'm saying, if they can't say this on TV, or if they can't dumb this on TV for people to show, maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about their incentives or their professions for me to make comments, but it's disappointing.
No, sorry, Ashoka, I've got to really counter this. As people who are actively interested in cricket, and I would like to believe that I have an open mind to learn things and whatever. It took me 5 years of non-stop campaigning from KD to understand how DRS works. How to have a vague understanding of how DRS worked when we first started this whole thing. And he was going on and on about it, and I was actively interested in what this guy is saying. Most people are not. Right? After a point, they're like, okay, this guy has his campaign and he's going on. It is not easy. And also, I would also like to take this opportunity to kind of talk about the fact that that we are wise enough to kind of look back and talk about this toxic prism through which umpiring is viewed. Growing up, we were pretty much part of it, right? I'm 100% sure that I was as disappointed with whatever, odd decisions as Sachin.
Buckner gave Buckner gave Tendulkar out LBW in the first innings at Brisbane in 2003. I hate it.
Yeah.
And even Venkatragavan giving those decisions against West Indies in the 96 World Cup. And if you go back and look at it, it wasn't as blatant as we thought it was back then. Back then, we thought it's like Venkat giving atrocious decisions and all that. But if you look at it, okay, these are marginal calls.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that to get out of that sort of toxic consumption of sports is not easy. It's taken years and years and years of listening to specific people who've kind of helped us get out of that, right? And it's very easy to act holy now and say this is the way to look at it, but it's a long journey, and it can only happen through trickle effect, right? It can't be like
it's also the whole concept of cricketing justice itself is not understood, right? Like the fact that the benefit of the doubt, who gets the benefit of the doubt, historically, why has the benefit of the doubt been given to the batter? Why do this whole concept of innocent until proven guilty, right? Which the people have to realize.
No, benefit of the doubt giving to the batsman is not strictly speaking innocent until proven guilty. It is that unless you have evidence to change the status quo, you let the status quo be. So you don't change the state of the match.
It's a modification of that, is what I meant.
That's why you give it out if you are sure that it is out, but otherwise you let it be. That's what benefit of doubt means.
Yeah, exactly. So you give also the fact that the batter has one chance, right? So if you're in doubt, it's quite silly for you to say, okay, that's out, because you would normally say it's not out, as you said, the status quo. But I'm saying even those
But
concepts.
there's a cricket specific aspect to this, no? Because in cricket, umpires are not allowed to enforce the law. No, I mean they can only answer appeals. So there is the whole question that there is an appeal, which means, and the batsman is not going. That means there is a dispute. So the umpire is really there answering the appeal is to resolve a dispute. So how does the umpire resolve the dispute? The umpire resolves the dispute by saying, okay, if I think there is sufficient merit in the appeal, I give it out. Otherwise, I let it be. That's what it means.
No, the problem I often have, see this, I appreciate the conservatism. I appreciate the decision making process. I like the fact that, the whole the doubt and the benefit of doubt and overturning everything. I like. Where I tend to have a problem instinctively is in cases where, like the Labuschagne case, where you had the umpire give a soft signal, all rifle on field, it said it's out, goes to the third umpire. You have all these different frames of replays, and then the umpire overturns the soft signal. I mean, with the thing that he feels there is conclusive evidence to prove that the soft signal is not right. Now, I have an issue with that many times because as a viewer, I really feel that there is still doubt. But then to say that the umpire has seen this same video as me and then exercised a judgment and said that he is actually overturning the on-field umpire's decision, I intuitively have a problem with it. Though at the end, I appreciate that an umpire is more expert than me. Still, I have a problem with that non-conservatism in that case.
No, it's not.
No,
okay, first of all,
it's not non-conservatism, no. But it's basically that the appeal is so close. That's a sort of a paradox, no, because a close appeal is one which is equally close to being out and not out, whereas a close decision, a close decision, a close appeal. What do we say? When there's an appeal and the commentators say, "Oh, that's close," that means they think it's out. That means that it's a very good shout. That means it's not a 50-50. It's much closer to out than being not out. But a close decision is one which is equally as close to being out or not out. It's marginal.
So you're saying this is a close decision and not a close appeal?
Yeah, it is. It is a close decision. If it's a close appeal, it means it's almost certainly out. No, those are two different things. And the point is that in a close decision, you have less reason to be angry with the umpire because the umpire has not made a clear mistake.
No, I'll tell you why. This this could be entirely consistent with the way Richard Kettleborough operates as a third umpire. And, actually, I would wish that TV would show other instances of Kettleborough ruling on a, low catch or something to sort of give us an idea of how things operate. That's one thing. But where the perception of inconsistency comes in is when you have a case like just a few weeks ago with that Joel Wilson as a third umpire in Pakistan, right? In Multan, where Oli Pope basically dives and takes that catch of Saud Shakil at a very close part in the game, which I must note had no bearing on the quality of that decision. Yeah. And the on-field umpire says out, and Joel Wilson sticks to that despite video evidence, despite all the video evidence we saw. So that is where the perception of inconsistency comes in, where you have one umpire going with the soft signal and one umpire not.
But I think it is generally consistent. I mean, from what I've seen, and I've been tracking this for a while, is that the general tendency is that if the original decision is out, then unless there's compelling, obvious evidence, and sometimes even when I think there's compelling, obvious evidence, the general rule is that the umpires tend to give it, the TV umpires. The reversals are rare. And yeah, okay, fine. I mean, it's maybe a 80-20 thing, but once in a while you're going to get reversals. But the thing is, those are the ones that stick in mind, and those are ones which become inconsistent. No, it's not inconsistent. No, it's a minority event.
The fact is,
there's going to be an umpire somewhere who thinks he saw the ball bounce on the ground in front of the finger. And if the umpire thinks he saw that, then he's going to say, yeah, this bounced.
But is the technology so vastly different that in some cases you can have conclusive evidence and in some cases you cannot have? I mean, it can't be that different, right?
But it's not about the technology, no. It's about what the umpire is seeing in the technology, which is imperfect.
But the low catches are pretty much like you're reliant on the frame by frame, right?
Yeah, but it's not perfect information. No? It's a projection. It's not. I mean, if you're lucky, you get an angle which is close to the ground. And that's not always possible. No? So I mean, it's not. I mean, low catches are extremely difficult to review because there's no mechanism by which you can measure whether a ball has bounced. Now they are saying now that they're going to have make a ball with a sensor in it. But I don't know. That's maybe several years away. But
that will lead to...
I think we solved all this problem. No, Ricky Ponting said when a fielder claims a catch, it's out, right?
But that's not
and then we saw what happened in that series.
Yeah, but that's not a bad idea. I mean, I think that's not as bad an idea as it sounds.
I think, actually speaking, I was at the series. I was in Australia for that series, and when that happened early on in the series, when the news came out, they even had a press conference and they announced this. I was actually genuinely happy that now that spirit of acceptance and trusting the player and all was being thing, and then. How wrong I was by the end of the series when everything went up in flames. and actually then Ranjan Madugale, who was then appointed match referee after Mike Proctor was, after he was thrown out or whatever, after he was sacked.
After Gavaskar question, is a white man listening to a white man over a brown man?
After all that, Ranjan Madugale came and said, okay, now forget all this player agreement and all. Let's just go back to this. The umpires deciding what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah, that was not really what happens now. No? When now, I mean, I think, I don't know this for sure, but I get the sense often that one of the things that the umpire takes into account is, whether the fielder is claiming the catch or not. And to be fair to fielders, they're not always claiming the catch. They don't always claim the catch.
And fielders, you can't. I mean, see, for instance, I've also seen fielders not claim legitimate catches. I've seen Greg Blewett take a catch and say not out because he felt it's not out. I mean, this was in Adelaide 99 of Ganguly. He was at point. So it's not like even if they're claiming catches which are not clean catches, it's not because they're trying to cheat. It's what they feel, right?
Yeah.
No. And now with technology, see, players won't even trust their, players will automatically, instinctively say, I don't know. Because even if they have a certain feeling, there will be a doubt that creeps in and says, okay, let's go and see. I mean, maybe we'll get the decision, right? I mean, they're also playing to win.
Yeah. And it's the safest thing for them to do. No, you make the appeal, you claim, so you force the umpire to at least say something, yes or no. But you say, oh, I don't really know. I think I got it.
And if the umpire says yes, then you have the chance, 80% chance of it anyway standing.
Players are basically outsourcing the outrage meter to the umpires. Like instead of them passing a judgment on me, whether I claimed a dodgy catch, I will let them take their outrage on umpire.
It's taken the sting out of umpiring also, and the players also. I mean, it works pretty well always. I mean, the point about low catches is that there isn't really a technological way to review low catches yet. It's just replays. You cannot measure the way you can with, LBW or edge, whether or not there's an edge. You can measure that. You can measure the sound signal, but you can't. And I think until that measurement, some method of measuring comes about, this is going to continue.
Yeah. So given that, do you think that at least for low catches, they should not be a soft signal, and they should be
I think there should be a soft signal. I think absolutely.
No, why can't the umpire just convene with the third umpire, express his thoughts, and then they come to a decision collaboratively?
That's what the soft signal is.
But expressing is soft signal, right?
If you leave it to them to privately confer an answer, then people will start complaining, oh, where's the transparency? So it's better that they give the soft signal.
No, the transparency
I
can come in.
No, hang on. How many times does it happen? You're talking about two, one Joe Wilson, one here, right? How often is why? First of all, umpiring outrages used to be better in my days because they only outrage about big decisions. you have Australia thrashing South Africa, and we're talking about two catches which has no relevance to the series. Yeah. It's like fielders, right? When fielders drop catches and it's a 3-run
but
drubbing,
it happens all the time. It happens all the low catches.
All the time of low catches, but how often low catches happen? And how often do you see this dichotomy of a soft signal being interpreted differently by two different umpires? Most of the times, soft signal is consistent.
Can I offer a suggestion? Yeah. Ban low catches if it is under certain height.
I'm with
no, you can't. You have to catch it, above your knees.
It's not that. There's actually a much better there's actually a serious solution to that, which is that they used to say that when you complete a catch, if at any point you get your fingers under the ball, that means that you have taken the catch. That's what it is right now. They could just say that, okay, if any part of your hand below the wrist touches the ground with the ball in your hand, it's not clear. It's not a completed catch. That would basically eliminate the controversy. It
won't, because then there will be a new controversy about whether the hand touched the ground or not. Okay, so all right, we touched upon a few things in this podcast. Quite a bit of big picture. Tried to make sense of umpiring and a soft signal and umpire's call, but of course, there's plenty more to discuss and to understand with respect to DRS and umpiring in general. Hopefully, we can even get an umpire on the show at some point and, get all this out in with a little more expertise. Thank you for joining. 81 All Out is our Twitter handle. 81allout.com is our website. Rate and review. It'll really help if you rate and review us in all the podcasting platforms. It helps more people find us. You can also contribute, chip in with an amount of your choice at Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/81allout. And thanks for all the support. Thanks for buying our books that we have republished. And hopefully, if you haven't, you can get hold of it. And we'll see you in about 10 days for our next episode. Thanks a lot, Ashoka, Mahesh, and Kartikeya. And see you soon.
India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India home. Lords goes wild.